Today we're going to learn about the institutions of government in Iran. First, we'll start with elections. There are similar voting requirements as in America. Citizens over 18 may vote. This was raised in 2007 in an effort to get more citizens to vote from the age of 15. There are national elections for 3 offices throughout the country: the president, the religious experts, and the majlis. And elections for both the majlis and the presidency are through plurality winner-take-all elections, with a runoff election possible, as we discovered in Russia as well in this course. We'll start with the executive as far as the 3 branches of government goes, and they have a dual executive system. The supreme leader is the most powerful of the executives. It was originally created for Ayatollah Khomeini. It's currently held by Ali Khamenei. The powers of the supreme leader can be seen here. Some of them are similar powers to what our U.S. president has, and some are additional. You can see which ones are similar and which are different here in front of you. The main responsibilities of the supreme leader are here, and both have to do with the theocratic elements of the government. He is the leading Islamic jurist and is in charge of interpreting Sharia and religious documents, and he also serves the power of jurist guardianship, which means that he will ensure that government will follow Islamic laws. As you can see, one of his most important powers he has is that he can eliminate candidates for the presidency, and he's also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Here is the first supreme leader, Ruhollah Ayatollah Khomeini. He was the leader of the Islamic Revolution in 1979 that created the modern Islamic Republic of Iran. Here is the current supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. He took over in 1989 after the death of the first supreme leader, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who we saw on the last slide. The other part of their dual executive in Iran is the presidency. The president is elected every 4 years, just like the American president. The Constitution requires that the president be a Shiite Muslim and uphold Islamic principles. Here is the former president, who some of you may remember, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. And here is the current president, Hassan Rouhani, who was just elected a couple years ago. Here is a history of past heads of states and presidents and prime ministers, which no longer exists in the country. Here are the president's powers. Some are similar, you will see, to the American president. He can supervise economic matters. He creates a budget in this capacity. He proposes legislation to the majlis. He can execute policies, which means he's the head of the bureaucracy. Just like the American president, he is the head of a vast bureaucracy, which is in charge of implementing the laws that are created by the majlis, which we'll talk about next. He can sign treaties and laws, just like the American president. He's also the chairman of the National Security Council. So while the supreme leader is the commander-in-chief, the president does have some powers over national security. He selects his cabinet ministers, just like the American president. A difference from the American president is that he can appoint provincial governors, town mayors, and ambassadors, which is similar to some powers of other executives we will be discussing in this class. So this is what we call a dual executive system, in which there is both a president and the supreme leader, and they both have powers over the executive branch of government in enforcing the laws of the country. So then there is the Guardian Council. There's no equivalent to this in our system in America. There are 12 members of this council. Every one of them must be a male. No females are allowed. Half of the members are appointed by the supreme leader. The other half are nominated by the chief judge, which are then approved or / appointed by the majlis. Now the chief judge is actually chosen by the supreme leader. So in a way, the supreme leader is actually appointing, at least indirectly, all members of the Guardian Council. So what can the Guardian Council do? Well, here you go. They have the power to veto. They can review laws that are passed by the majlis to conform with Sharia. Basically, they have the power of judicial review, essentially, to ensure that the laws are following Sharia, which is Islamic law. They can also then decide who can compete in elections. This is a power shared with the supreme leader as well. And they have, on numerous occasions, disqualified many, many candidates. Notably, in the 2000s, thousands of candidates for both the majlis and presidential elections have been disqualified. Generally, that was because they were too moderate or reform-oriented. Then there's the Assembly of Religious Experts. This is something else that there's no equivalent to in the American system. and is a result of the theocratic system of Iran. The Assembly of Religious Experts are directly elected by the people. They serve 4-year terms. The 1989 revisions to the Constitution allowed non-clerics to stand for this assembly. The main power that the Assembly of Religious Experts has is that they can choose the Supreme Leader. They can also choose to remove the Supreme Leader. Now, this has never actually been done, as the country has only ever had 2 Supreme Leaders. So none has ever been removed. But they were the ones who chose Ali Khamenei to succeed Ruhollah Khomeini. They have broad constitutional interpretation as well. So they are sort of an upper chamber to the Majlis, which is the legislature, but they are not a formal part of the legislative branch of government. Then we have the bureaucracy. This is an extension of the executive branch, just like in our country. They are the main implementers of the law, so they carry out the laws, they enforce the laws. This has become more powerful since 1979, since the Islamic Revolution. They've created greater policy-making powers. The clergy tends to dominate in the bureaucracy, again, a result of the theocratic nature of the Iranian government. Head ministers are all clerics and, again, are appointed by the president. And then let's talk about the legislature, the Majlis. The Majlis is a unicameral legislature, while the Assembly of Religious Experts, as I said, has served as somewhat of a upper house, because both are elected. It is officially just a unicameral legislature, a one-house legislature, the Majlis. Members are directly elected through multi-member districts by citizens over 18 years old. And the composition of the Majlis here, there are 290 seats. 5 of those seats are reserved for ethnic minorities, as you can see broken down here. So there is some minority representation. Women currently hold just 8 seats out of 290, which means that women are very underrepresented in Iran in the Majlis. The powers of the Majlis, very similar to our Congress, they can create laws. Now these do have to be approved by the Guardian Council, which, as we discussed, has veto power. Half of the Guardian Council members are appointed by the Majlis from a list made up by the Chief Judge. They can investigate and remove cabinet ministers. This is similar to the American Congress's ability to impeach government officials. The Majlis can also approve the budget, cabinet appointments, and treaties, similar to our U.S. Senate, which has the power of advice and consent. Then we have the judicial branch of Iran. Judicial review does not exist in Iran. That is because, as we discussed, the Supreme Leader has ultimate authority over laws along with the Guardian Council to ensure that they conform with Sharia law. This principle of juris guardianship means, as I said, that the Supreme Leader, the Guardian Council, and the Assembly of Religious Experts have final say in regards to the interpretation of law and Sharia, and so that is what limits the power of judicial review in Iran, and really means that the Supreme Leader and the Guardian Council have judicial review rather than the judicial branch of government. Then we have a part of the Iranian government institutions, not a formal system of government, but the military does tend to play a very large role in politics in Iran. The Revolutionary Guard is established by Khomeini after the Islamic Revolution occurred, and it has a lot of power. Commanders are appointed by the Supreme Leader. The regular army is in charge of defending against foreign enemies, so basically is in charge of protecting the country from other countries, whereas the Revolutionary Guard defends against domestic ones. The Revolutionary Guard was very active in recent protests against the re-election of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in 2009, as we'll discuss more in class. Then there's the Basiji. The Basiji are a volunteer militia. They currently serve as a form of morality police. They enforced strict Sharia law, such as the dress code in Iran. So let's talk about some theocratic and democratic elements of Iran's government. You can see here in the middle column the things that make the system of Iran, the government, very theocratic. On the right, the things that make it democratic. So there are actually democratic characteristics to the Iranian government, as you can see here. There is another slide here showing the same breakdown of theocratic and democratic characteristics for other parts of the governmental system. So that's it. Now you know everything you need to about the governmental institutions of Iran. I hope this was helpful, and we will be discussing this more in class over the next few days. Thank you very much for listening.